We'll call our meeting to order in council. It's open with a moment of silence. To pray or any questions. I would ask that the trustee remember tonight the little saying. Thank you. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge tonight that we're on the ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq people. I'd like to thank the ancestors of today's Mi'kmaq people for sharing their lands with our ancestors, whether they came 4 years or 400 years ago. And we all live in peace and harmony. Okay, now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
So moved, Peter.
Moved by Councillor Boyle, second by Councillor Elliott. Before we call for the vote on that, was there anything people want to add to the agenda or not? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. Now we have minutes from February the 7th.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions, concerns with those minutes? Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. On page 2, it was noted that I was looking for pumps repaired. I wasn't. I was looking for them to be compared. It says repaired. I was looking for them to be compared for the effectiveness of. No, I got this wrong. I got it backwards. Oh my gosh. I was looking to have them. The word there should be compared.
Compared.
Compared, correct.
What is there? I guess,
Repaired. In the write-up, they were comparing the effectiveness of pumps and the needles. That's not what I was looking for at all. I'm looking for the HVAC to be removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so repaired should be compared.
Okay, so the word repaired to be replaced with by compared.
Yeah.
Phase 2.
Yes,
Good, Jane?
thanks.
Okay, with that one minor correction, any other hands, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carries. Now, we have a couple of pieces of correspondence there for information purposes both from the Minister of Public Works. I guess we need that signed sooner rather than later, never found it. It'll take a shortcut through it. But they're advising that signage, I guess, will be coming in the paragraph. Get ready. The others about the Edgefield Road, confirming people already know that it's in poor condition. And will someday get fixed. Is there any comments on the 2 pieces of correspondence? Okay, let's go right along. So we have with us tonight our new, or he's still fairly new, CEO for Pictou County Rent, Scott Burton. Scott's going to unveil the new business plan for us tonight. It's all yours, Scott.
Okay, thank you. I actually want to start off by thanking you for the moment of silence. Actually, I have a good friend, Henry Sternberg, who is the president of the World Trade Center Key, so I speak with him pretty well every day on what's happening in that city, and I think it's good that I can pass on more of that Nova Scotia. He's being at the Municipal Council, so I'll pass that on to him. So what I wanted to do is to present the business plan for this coming year. I did get a request from the LLC that I start with just a very brief overview of some of the things that we've done. And even though my role at the Red started only in November, so really my focus is really on to go forward and where I'm trying to take the organization, not so much what we've done or didn't do in the past, but I wanted to put a couple slides up to show you, at least put it in perspective a little bit. And I don't think I'm connected. Oh, just go outside. So the first thing I wanted to do is just to show you the rent was set up 5 years ago from its first window, and the funding that was approved was for the 5-year period, and that funding is coming up, and that's why you're dealing with another, yet again, we asked for the next 5-year period. So what I wanted to do was just to highlight the timeline a little bit, is that the organization was established in 18. The first 2 years, really the focus was on trying to get a strategy in place and to start the operation. And the first CEO was named not until the second year. So for the first 2 years, the blue section was really about getting set up and getting organized. The next 2 years, 3 and 4, were of course characterized by COVID. So I came in the 4th year, which was in November of 2021. But I do know at that point we had only 2 members of our team, and most of our business development, if not all of it, was focused on COVID survival for local business. So it wasn't so much about trying to grow our businesses, trying to support business to make sure that they survive, but whether or not it was handing out masks and other paraphernalia and other support mechanisms. We did work as closely as we could with business, but most of it, if not all of it, was strictly about COVID survival, and there really wasn't much of a chance to do a lot of business development in the way that I would like to do it. At the same time, we did actually roll out a number of programs on the immigration front, and I'll get into that in a moment. And the reason for that, of course, is that we had received quite a sizable funding envelope from the immigration department federally, and that's very prescriptive on what we needed to do for that. So this next year is the year that I'm going to focus on, which is year 5, which is the last year of the 5-year tranche, but it's my first year as CEO, and what I was looking to do was to introduce some of the elements that I learned over the last few weeks or a couple of months in speaking to stakeholders. I've done a fair bit of that, meeting with the CAOs and councils and wardens and mayors, et cetera. And we did a fair bit of surveying, et cetera. But my focus is last year. But I will touch on some of the highlights. As I mentioned, the business development and navigation activity was all, for the most part, around COVID. So we did run a one-on-one navigation for businesses that were calling in looking for advice and direction, and we were matched up with a number of consultants to provide local business in Pictou County advice on how they are trying to survive the COVID period. We did work with Summer Street and with Big Cove on a cold packing capacity, and a concept that was launched and I think successful, and has lays for further growth in the future for this coming year. We also played a significant role with the MIT Regional Entrepreneur Program, which you may have heard about, and that was heavy engagement with local businesses trying to identify areas that we could improve and provide support for the local business community to come up with a vision. And I've essentially taken a lot of that information and research and made sure it was plugged into this coming year business plan. So I did put it to good use. And we did run an e-commerce program, pictoucounty.com, and a Shop Here program. So again, I stress most of the business development, not all of it, was focused on working with businesses during the COVID phase. On the bulk of our high-profile events, however, were in and around workforce development support. We ran a number of provincial programs, a labor mobility program, and another connected program, all in and around immigration. And I'll get into in a few moments why there was such heavy focus on that topic. Any questions on that? Those first few slides. So the next thing I want to touch on is the Pictou County Readiness and Investment. And I wanted to start with this slide because there is a number of funding mechanisms that are available to us, both federally and provincially, but it all starts with the funding that the municipalities together contribute by working together. And that's a really important theme because what I'm finding is that there is an incredible number of programs and funding that is available both through the federal government and COA and through the various provincial departments targeted towards municipalities as long as those municipalities are working closely together. That's a theme that's really important because it comes up time and time again. The first one is core funding. And I just wanted to highlight the Pictou County Rent contributes $166,000. Now, when I compare that to the other three Rents from the Valley Rent and the Colchester and Cumberland County, we are significantly behind, 200 to 250 to 295. The reason that's relevant is because the province immediately matches those dollars. So I'm not looking for any more money. I'm not suggesting there should be more money spent, but I'm just saying that you better recognize that for every dollar you spend, you're essentially spending 50-cent dollars, because the province will match every dollar that the municipalities contribute. So right away, that provides a core funding budget of $332,000 for us. When you compare it to one of the other Rents, you're up to $590, so about a $250,000 difference in expenditures just based on the core funding. So core funding is very relevant from a matching perspective. The second thing is that also enables you to apply for project funding. As I mentioned before, the vast majority, in fact, all of our funding came through immigration. We had $271,000 contributed through the province and through the federal pro-immigration refugee program. Because what they do is they fund programs that we carry out. And we have to spend that money in the community in various forms or fashions. Usually it's developing workbooks and videos and stories and mechanisms that really support local business, but all on the immigration front. So sometimes I've been asked over the last month why we spent so much time on immigration. And I think there's good reason to do that, but the practical reason is that's why we were funded to do that, quite frankly. And my goal for this coming year is to achieve similar project funding on the business development side. So when you look at the Pictou County Rent as an investment, I put this pie chart up because you'll see in the orange, which is $166,000 that was contributed by the municipalities together. The province immediately matched that, so an additional 166, and then we managed to secure $271,000 of program funding. So you invested 166, you essentially spent 28 cent dollars on business development, and you had a rate of return of about 263% based on 166. So when you look at your core funding, I just wanted to point out that it triggers a lot of other things, right? That could come our way by way of additional spends and additional program dollars. So I'm going to go into the business plan, but I just wanted to ask if there's any questions on that.
Everybody good? Okay.
All right.
Carry on.
The next slide is really just a business plan. So for 22-23, I spent, at Warden Park, as you know, I spent a fair bit of time during that first couple of months out meeting and connecting and also asking for written feedback on questions and input for the business plan. So I'm very happy with the amount of input that we had. But there's a number of themes that came back to me that I needed to make sure were highlighted in this coming year business plan. First one was there needed to be a lot more work done on the business development front. So I put a lot of our resources in our programming this year in business development. I'm going to be bringing on 2 managers that are focusing only on business development. They're going to start on the 21st and the 23rd of this month. And I've split up those responsibilities depending on what their specialties are, but they're going to be out in the community meeting with businesses on a daily basis and developing programs that we will then be seeking funding from provincial and other agencies to launch into the community. So business development is a big part of this plan. The second thing is workforce development and population growth. We will continue to do the good work and build on the good work that was done on immigration and workforce development, recognizing that immigration is a solution, not the only one necessarily, but it is certainly a good solution to workforce gaps in the marketplace. The third is communication. We have not done an effective job in communicating some of our success and some of our business profiles. But I would also highlight that that's a very difficult thing to do during COVID because really the only messages were COVID at that time. And the fourth is measured results. So what I have done is I've put a very healthy grid of measurement into this year's business plan. So you're going to have quarterly reports back on what we've accomplished. But until now, it's been mostly subjective on the things that we've done, and I think I've changed that quite effectively. So the 5 priorities were the 5 priorities that was built 4 years ago, because I'm in the 5th year of 5-year strategy. So I've taken the same themes and I've built the business plan under these themes: business retention, workforce development, business navigation and connections, economic innovation, and regional branding. The first one is, and I believe you do have a copy of the business plan, so it's got a lot more detail in it. I'm not going to go into that detail. I'll just touch on some of the high points. The first one is digital growth and innovation initiative. So we've got 2 major initiatives in this year's plan. It's going to be working with businesses in Pictou County to make sure that they're at a higher level of digital capability. The numbers that I have show that generally companies in Atlantic Canada, but in particular companies in Nova Scotia, are below the national average by way of digital capability on how they're presenting and selling and connecting with customers. So our goal is to introduce a number of programs that are going to be supporting digital growth of Pictou County businesses. At the same time, we will be developing an innovation program that will identify Pictou County companies that we think can benefit from innovation initiatives. There's a lot of discussion at the provincial level on innovation, but there's many definitions of what that is. So part of what we're trying to do is to work with business to really understand what kind of innovation is effective for Pictou County businesses and how can we work with them to get them to that space. We will be introducing one of the 2 new measures that we have this year, which is the digital readiness measurement. So every quarter, we're going to be able to report back on the digital readiness of businesses in Pictou County. And over time, hopefully, if we're doing a job properly, you're going to see some kind of an increase in digital capability of local businesses. Continuity planning and succession is a big part of our plan this year. Succession is the outcome of when companies are getting ready to sell, essentially, or to move on, to transfer to the business. And the numbers that we have show that we've got roughly 30,000 businesses in Atlantic Canada that are looking to transfer over the next 10 years. And we do come across stories of companies that simply shut down because they don't have an effective plan in place on how they sell or transfer to employees or do something other than close when they decide to retire. Continuity planning is how you get there. That's working with local businesses to understand their operation and where the weaknesses, where the gaps may be, and try to strengthen them in a position where they can maximize the value and will be intended to try to sell and transfer their business once they decide to move out of the business. Scale Up Initiative is another, which is working with the entrepreneurs and smaller business on how to get to that next level. And it's about how to find investors and how to grow their operation from a startup to a larger operation. So the first strategy is all in and around what they call BRE, which is business retention and expansion. Any questions on that? Please.
Just there, when you were talking about the business development and that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like your immigration and your business development, how they're connected, like as far as like when your business development people that you're going to be hiring, now are they going to be working for everybody, or I know you're getting a lot of money, you said, from the immigration is how does that affect?
Well, and I'll tell you this. This next slide, I think, is going to answer that, right? Because it's all about workforce development, and we're all aware of the fact that most businesses are having trouble finding people to, whether or not it's to serve on the retail floor or serve coffee at Tim Hortons, or be a software engineer, or be a doctor or a nurse, and one in between, or be a trade. There's gaps everywhere. Now, this slide represents, I'm going to say, the second and third point of skills attraction initiatives and welcoming environments. Those are 2 real key points that we've done well in the past, and what I'm hoping to do is strengthen that. I'll answer your question in a second, but the skills attraction initiative is all about working with local businesses who have understood what their gaps may be and are interested in filling those gaps and want to work with us to use the immigration stream to find those employees. And we've got a list of, I believe it was 48 businesses that we worked with this past year on that purpose. Now, those are businesses that have self-identified, where we've come across through the normal process of doing business. That's been the center of what we've done very effectively over the last couple of years. The third bullet is around welcoming environments. And that's also equally important. It's not something we do on our own. We work with Waterreach and a long list of other community associations to make sure that the new residents that come into Pictou County are welcomed and they're comfortable and they're being dealt with properly. So those two pieces are really, really important. The first piece we haven't done, which is what I'm focusing on, which is identifying the gaps. So one of these managers that I will be bringing in will have two primary responsibilities. One is to be out constantly meeting with businesses and searching for business continuity and continuous improvement, which I just talked about a minute ago. But the second big piece is really to understand where the gaps are. Because we can't say at the moment what are the employment gaps in Pictou County. We don't know. And if I knew that, if I was able to say, you know what, we need 850 people, and there's so many of them are trades, so many of them are retail, so many of them are medical, so many of them are software engineers, whatever it happens to be, then I'm then going to be able to take that and try to develop a program and work within government. Figure that. But we don't know that. So up until now, we've been very responsive to businesses that have self-identified or with our advertising or our newsletters or referrals to work with them. We've been very successful at it. We developed a really good skill. In fact, we're recognized, I think, as being the top in Nova Scotia. When I was still listening to one of Don Mill's podcasts, Insights, if anyone gets an opportunity to listen to those, they speak exclusively on rural economic development, and it's really good stuff. But in any case, they were interviewing Jennifer Watts from the Provincial Immigration Society, and they asked her if there was anything innovative happening in immigration in Nova Scotia, and she pointed out Pictou County and I think the workforce development program that we were running. So we've done some very effective innovation on the B and the C part. What we need to do more aggressively is the A part, which is going out there and meeting with business and recruiting them and understanding where their gaps may be. And I think once we get that piece in place, we're going to be a lot more effective with the other pieces, and we're going to be a lot more effective in supporting them on filling those gaps.
Just wondering, thinking, you're saying that, you know, they're in businesses and they're all saying that, okay, they're having a hard time hiring people and well, I know a person turned up with him for a job, you know, over the Christmas break and within 4 places, you know, but, you know, that's not here in the narrative. But I'm wondering about is like the government, I think, caused the problem here by this third money. They turn around and they threw all this money out to somebody that was just making little money working at some of the you know, the beads or the gas bars or something like that. And now they're turning around saying, okay, we'll give you 3 times as much money to stay at home. And now they're saying, oh, we can't get, but once this money is all sort of, this is pretty well done, and these people now are going to have to get back into the workforce, is that going to be looked at?
It is. Like when I talk about immigration and new residents, I'm a big fan of what our group has done. They've done that because my previous CEO had a passion for that, and she had the global network to trigger. So she's done some wonderful things. When I talk about it now, I'm a big fan of doing that, but I also, there's 2 sides to the coin, right? One is, are we fully employed resources in the community that exists now? We have to ask that question, and we have to understand if there's underemployed segments of our community, what are we doing to support them? At the same time, immigration is an incredible tool right now, and we need to go through. I know that, you know, one of the probably the largest employer in this community, without naming them, you know, and I talked about the tech workers they need, they give me a long list of tech workers that they're trying to employ and they can't employ them. I reached out to a company, it's a unicorn, it's $1 billion company out of Ontario that are moving into Halifax with a few this coming year and looking to bring 300 tech workers with those into Halifax. And I asked the CEO if I could get some of those in Pictou County. He says, absolutely, find them for me. So there's a couple of sides to that coin. One is that especially on the technology side, is there's a war on talent right now globally. And we find a way to access that now. The NSCC is offering a new curriculum on digital and technology, so that's a help, and X being so close. So there's tools that we have available to us. And we also want to piggyback on Halifax to try to pull some of those jobs into this market because of their lifestyle and the closeness to the market. So there's any number of ways to do it, but it starts with knowing what the gaps are. And we don't really know better.
One more question. I just wanted to know, do they still do if a business in Nova Scotia hires an immigrant to turn and work in, that they'll pay so much of their wages for so long, and does that still happen?
They actually, I'm just hearing, I don't want to say, I don't know, right? But what I do know is the province has launched a new program just this last month, which is going to be very heavily funded and focused on attracting new Nova Scotians into the marketplace. And they put a series of what they call navigators in each community, and we have a navigator that will be positioned with us in our office. And the point being is, as these inquiries come in, either from within Canada or from out, they'll be funneled through these people, and we'll do the best job we can to sell Pictou County right through that. But they've also announced an understanding between today and yesterday, and are still getting details on it, that they'll make a financial contribution to anyone that is moving into the community, right? Because immigrants often, some cases refugees aren't bankrolled appropriately, right? So when they come into the community, there's a funding program. So that I think was up to $5,000 per person. I'm going to go with the community, but I'm just getting information on that. So I'm not aware of them paying salaries.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Turner is good.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thank you for your presentation. It's got a couple of things. I'm impressed with the business plan, how comprehensive it is. Seem to be touching on a lot of the things that I've had concerns about here at Pictou County and basically as a province as a whole. And one was his population growth. Population growth is key to a lot of our fixing our problems here. One of the things you had mentioned in one of your slides is about measured results. And I think we need to know as a council, do you have the tools in place to, the metrics in place to measure how your activities are affecting the economy of Pictou County as a whole? There's probably segments that you're going to be able to say that we've brought, a skilled worker in here and they're making this amount of money, but is there any metric that you have developed that show the council how your job is really positively affecting the economy of Pictou County?
So when I get to the end, I'll show you 20 measures, but it's not exactly what you're asking, but those 20 measures will hold me and my team accountable for everything I have to play, right? And there's outputs and there's outcomes, right? And so it's whether it's how many dollars we attracted in program funding, it's how many companies we put through how many programs, it's where are we on digitally capable, and we also have a couple other measures. So we've got 20 of them that will clearly measure the plan. I think what you're talking about is that next level measure, which is everything from GDP, population, employment, and we are in the process of getting those numbers together with the other RENs because we are all looking to develop the same dashboard that we will use. So in Western REN or Old Chesterfield, Cumberland, you'll have the same measures. So we will have those this year. Not really finalized at the moment. The new Stats Canada numbers are just coming in now. So we will have those numbers, but those are longer term numbers.
Sure, yeah.
It's really over the course of 3 or 4 to 5 or 10 years, you should see some movement, but it's tough on the short term.
Yeah. The other thing impressed me that you talk about digital growth and it's aligned with what our initiatives here in the counties. I don't know if you're aware of our broadband project here, but we've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money into enhancing the digital economy in the county. And I really believe it's transformative. And so what you had mentioned here today is, I was very happy to hear that. So just those two things that I, from the first couple of slides you put up, those two particular things struck me. It's, how you're focused on the digital growth and that you're going to have measured results. Thank you.
You know, I want to just add that there's always going to be a couple of pieces of this. There's going to be what we can develop here in Pictou County by working with people and businesses and stakeholders and partners here in Pictou County. And then there's also what can we make for Steel at Halifax, because that city is just hitting its stride globally. And I don't see any reason why, as technical businesses move into Halifax, IT businesses, not everyone wants to live in a high-priced urban environment. And I think that the fact that we're 2 hours away, we've got the airport between us, we got the Southern Highway, and we got the lifestyle that's with assets.
Is there any evidence that, just one more question.
Go ahead.
Is there evidence that this is kind of like a stopgap for immigrants, that they come to Pictou County, come to Nova Scotia, they get themselves established in Canada, then they move to larger cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver? Or is there, or can you reverse that flow? Can you, in terms of immigration, I mean, we quite focused on immigration. Can you reverse that flow? The immigrants come into Montreal, Toronto, and then find some way to attract them to rural Canada, rural Pictou County?
Yeah, I think on the first one, it's all about retention. So when I just showed, so this welcoming environments piece, third bullet, that's the critical piece right there. If we have new residents, new citizens of Pictou County, and they feel that they're being welcomed and valued and trusted, and they're comfortable here, they're going to stay. And that's the magic number right there. So you don't want to lose anyone that you've worked hard to attract because they decide to move on. So that's the key to that. As far as attracting people, I think the spotlight to some degree is on the East Coast of Canada right now. And part of it is because we've come out of COVID in a very positive way, and we've managed that generally, I think, better than other parts of the country. I think people are starting to realize that maybe a more comfortable lifestyle is available to them and less expensive. And so there's a bunch of factors, I think, that point towards. And then we have in turn, we've got the city of Halifax, which is also a magnet that we can try to draw from. So I think we've got another things.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, carry on, let's go.
Okay, the next strategy is about business navigation and connection. And this is all around working with local businesses, especially entrepreneurs, to navigate programs. I mean, I have to tell you that I get confused when I go through the sheer number of programs and departments that are in a good way, pushing initiatives and programs and money down the pipe. And it's mind-boggling how many there are. It can be shocking to some degree. The issue from my perspective, this is the analysis I use for that a lot, is that you've got well-meaning and well-financed departments pushing money down into the system for a good reason. And they're hovering like an inch above the ground, and they don't connect fully with the community that they're trying to connect with. And the reason for that is that unless you're in the community working, engaging on a day-to-day basis, you're never going to do that. That's the role that the REN plays. So how does an entrepreneur even navigate the system, right? If they want to, there's money available to a COLA to develop a strategic plan or a business plan. I mean, how do they even have time to do that? They're busy trying to survive and run their own business. So that's the role of the REN. It's all about navigating and working with local business to try to connect them with the appropriate department or the appropriate funding. And that works for both sides. It works for government because they want the money to be used, but it certainly works for a grassroots business who don't have time, energy, or ability to navigate. So this is all around linking entrepreneurs to those funding sources. Once we understand what they're trying to do, not that we're going to be experts in telling them how to do it, but we're going to be able to find the experts that can help them do that, and we'll often pay for that by finding funding through one of the departments. That's one area that we should be expert on, is where the money is. So we're going to be developing an online tool as well as developing programs. But that was one of the big gaps that came from the MIT REAP initiative was, companies don't know how to navigate the system. And that's something that we can find. fourth one is all around the MIT REAP, and it's about stakeholder leadership and quality of partnerships. And I'm in the process now of developing a bit of a grid on the number of organizations that we have. And it's kind of, you've heard the old pizza analogy, right? If you got a pizza and you got 25 pieces, right? 25 different organizations trying to do somewhat similar or overlapping things. That happens everywhere in Canada or Nova Scotia. But what doesn't happen is more of a cooperative, collaborative partnership role. And that's the role that the REN is playing. Whether or not it's Ignite or it's the Chamber of Commerce or whether or not it's Flyreach or goes on or NSBI, you know, it goes on and on and on and on. Our role, I believe, is in and around this partnership. It's not a matter of us trying to take credit for doing anything. What it is trying to make sure that anything we do has a partnership component to it, and we're working with all those groups and organizations to get it done. And that's also what's missing. I think it's missing in other parts of Nova Scotia, but it's missing here just like it is everywhere else. So that's a big role, which is going to be working within the stakeholder group to make sure that we can connect with as many of those contributors as possible, and that we develop. We're trying to develop a measurement now that might be able to measure that partnership, because it's partnership side is really important to government funders if they see that there's groups and communities working together. And the fifth one, which is the last one, is all around telling our story more effectively. So coming out of COVID, I really think that Becky and Heidi, we have two people in the office during the COVID period. I think they did an absolutely spectacular job trying to juggle everything from the workforce side to the business development side. We had two people for the last year. Once the CEO left, they did a great job. From a go forward, coming out of COVID, I think we're going to be able to do a lot more. So we're looking to increase the exposure that the REN has so people understand what we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and how we're trying to do it. We will tell our stories, our success stories, hopefully a lot better on businesses that we're working with and success that they have. We're going to be developing a first in Nova Scotia. It's called a Business Community Promoter Score. So what we're going to be doing is every 6 months, we're going to be going out to all the businesses in Pictou County and essentially asking them, is Pictou County a good place to do business? And would you recommend to family members and business associates that they set up business here? And if not, what do we need to improve? And what is the one thing that we can do to move at one point? So again, over time, we'll have a measure of what businesses think of doing business in Pictou County. And the first year is not going to tell us a lot. By the time we get to the second or third year, you're going to hopefully see some good numbers. And the last is stakeholder feedback, which is everything we do is need to, core stakeholders, the funding stakeholders with the municipalities is the starting point, but it's to make sure that we have open, transparent communication with all of our stakeholders. So you folks know what we're doing, how we're measuring success, what we're not doing, and why we're not doing it. It starts with the municipal partners, council, and then it goes from there to other members. And the last slide is really just this grid that I've shown, which has got all of those initiatives are all mapped out on this. They're either outputs of programs, number of companies, funding that we've secured, or they are positions filled with Pictou County REN support. It's grants on resources. It's companies participating in the scale of program. So it's I think a very comprehensive measurement that at the end of the year you're going to be able to see on a quarterly basis what we've accomplished against this plan. And this plan will run through until March 31st of 12 months from now. But in the meantime, I will need to start developing a new strategic plan that will start for the next 3 to 5 years, because that also needs to get done this year. And I'll be back in front of you with that likely by this fall to talk a little bit more about what happens for the next 3 to 5 years. But I think a lot of the themes that we developed to get this plan off the ground are going to resurface in that. So that's all I have for today. I'm happy to take any other questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask one first myself. One of the people get warmed up here. There was branding.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about that. I think trying to figure out who all was in the room. I think I know Larry, you were certainly here, the old Municipal Economic Working Group, which was the precursor of the REN. We had all the municipalities here in the room, we came in this room. And, we did talk a little about branding. And we felt we needed to sell Pictou County to the world better. And we know, you know, we have a very special place. We're probably not the only ones to figure that, but we know that. But to get that message out to the bigger world, once you get beyond the Maritimes almost, that obviously people are finding us in terms of this would be a good place to live. But, you know, even beyond Canada and whatnot, we thought of, at the time of putting out the video, and I think somebody did some work on that, you know, as to just what's here. In other words, out there trying to sell it to the world what we have to offer, and maybe get a big fish, maybe get a little bit. But that was one idea that was floated a lot, and we talked about a lot at the time. And we decided to leave that until we got the RIN set up and let them deal with it. But the other two, in terms of branding, was location of where our offices were going to be. And we decided again to leave that to the RIN when it was set up, that it needed to be highly visible. It needed to be something that people knew where that was, and as they were going there for help, who, you know, what they would help to look for. So where it was, and the other was the name. I think you could stand on the street in any one of our towns or county and ask a lot of people what the PC RIN is, and you wouldn't get a lot of people that know. I know in Cumberland and Colchester both, I think, I don't know what the rest of the RINs across the province, they have renamed their, or, you know, named their RIN something slightly different to give it a, maybe a more positive tone or whatever than PC RIN. And I just wondered if there's been any thoughts given to that branding in terms of those three different aspects.
Yeah, I tell you, the third one maybe first is when you're developing a brand, you have to develop it before you can launch it or talk about it, right? And I think it's pretty difficult during COVID to really develop any kind of a brand. We know we've got a lot of attributes here as being, you know, close to Halifax and being very beautiful and friendly. And we've got a number of very significant employers here that many of the other regions don't have. So we've got a lot going to our advantage, but we haven't really told our story effectively. And I think part of that is that we didn't have a story to tell. We were just trying to survive. So people not knowing what the REN is, because we really didn't talk about the REN, we didn't talk about what we're doing, we didn't talk about why we're doing it. So we're going to talk about that a whole lot more this coming year versus prior years. So, and to do that, you need to have something that some story that you're telling, and the programs that we're launching will be the story that we're telling. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. It's really hard to do that, I think, during a COVID period. But we will be doing that a lot more assertively during this coming year.
In terms of location.
Yeah, we're looking at to relocate our office this summer. I mean, there are some realities too. When I talked a little bit about funding earlier, all of those decisions, right, on what we pay in rent, where we go, and how much advertising promotion we do about the rent, all comes back to money as well. So we do the best that we can with the budget that we have, but I am looking to relocate this summer. I've got 3 potential locations that we're looking at. Right now, we're just doing our due diligence on cost, see what we can afford.
Okay, thank you. I'll let the others have questions. I can't take questions from the audience, sorry. I take it from councilors. Councilor Jay Parker.
I'm just curious, that fourth item you had there, MITV. I'm not familiar with that acronym.
Well, it's Massachusetts Institute of Technology, right, out of Boston.
Okay.
Have developed a curriculum which is all in and around regional economic development. And how do you go about, so that what they've done is they said, we'll not so much focus on major cities, let's look at other areas and how you can develop regions. And the province partnered with them about a year ago and they developed these teams across the province, one of which is located here in Pictou County. I think there's roughly 5 or 6 of them. And they went through a very extensive, and this is just as I was coming on board, they went through a very extensive program of meeting with businesses and community members and stakeholders to understand what's important, where the gaps, and how do you develop regionally. And I think we get focus group as an example with 28 different startup businesses in the community. We get another group of, I believe it was 24 established businesses, but you've got a number of the major employers as well as the entrepreneurs on the MIT REAP committee. And the purpose was to develop a strategy to help promote Pictou County, but they were doing the same thing in Cape Breton, the same thing in the Valley, and the same thing for Western Brand. Now, some of them were the RENs, some of them were separate groups that were doing this. But in any case, they all came together as a group of 6 or 7. And we had Maxine Mann from the college at SCC was the champion in this community. And we presented her actually last year when I first came on board. She now has moved on, and the RED now will take the leadership role in that entire program. And what we will be doing is the research and the strategies that came out of that, for the most part, have merged with the plan that we have. So it's consistent with what that group came up with. From a go forward, there's an initiative that is likely going to be in the innovation side that we will take a champion, and we looking to secure funding on behalf of the MIT REAP and manage it with stakeholders through the REN.
The REAP has a meaning.
The REAP is coming to an end, and that will transfer.
Is it an acronym?
It's an acronym for Regional Economic, I forgot to be honest with you. Regional Economic Program, but anyway. So that's been operating for the last 2 years, and it was all in and around developing an economic strategy for the region, just like other regions of the province. And we've now merged it with what we're doing, and it will take the leadership role on it.
Thank you.
Deputy Warden Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Just to add your question about the name change that came up at our last LOC meeting. We decided there that let this go for a year. We'll need to change the name and should know what the category is. So the decision was to let go for a year before we look at it again.
Okay, beautiful. See what happens. Did I see your other hand over here? Oh, any more questions? Oh, sorry, Councilor Johnson.
Just going back to your welcoming environment, that slide. I'm from here. I think this is the best place to live, but what do I know, right? What do people think about Pictou County when they come here? That's my curiosity, I guess. And what my question to you is, what can we do as municipalities to make this a more inviting place to come to live?
That's a good example.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I mean, I'm new to the area, right? I came here first because I was a lot of place here, and I was interested in spending the time here, and I liked it, and I applied for a job after I was here. I didn't come here to talk about that. So I think there's a couple pieces to that. The first piece is that if it's workforce related, which a big chunk of this will be, it's really working with local businesses to really understand what the gaps are, but also are they new resident friendly in their culture, in their business, even, right? So that new residents coming into Pictou County, if they're working for company ABC, how are they treated in the workplace? And it's the expectation is a lot higher than it might have been a year or two ago. It's like 10 years ago, a lot of companies didn't really do performance reviews adequately, right? Or there may be harassment issues, or there may be all kinds of issues that are clearly not acceptable these days. So companies have evolved. So the key is we need to get to that level from a new resident of immigration perspective. The workplace needs to be, because a lot of them are going to be workplace related. The other piece is working with groups like Water Reach and other community groups. Sometimes folks will arrive in the community with very little And it's tough enough finding a place to live, so you've got some kind of system in place that we can help find a place to live. In some cases, might be trying to equip them or support them with clothing or with electronics or with others. It's especially if they're new to Canada, it's programs that explain that we've got a YMCA and a health center, and how do you use it, and you know, where you're welcome to use it. And so culturally, there's a lot of changes outside of Canada that we need to do a lot of work on. The community itself, I think, is a warm, friendly, open community, like many parts of Nova Scotia. We may not distinguish ourselves any differently from parts of Cape Breton in that way, so I think we need to find a way to really that long ball. I think we need to be more open, more friendly, more connected. We need to work as a team so that when we look to bring immigrants in or new residents in the community, that we've got community groups that are supporting. And quite frankly, the person on the street, you know, starts to talk in a friendly, open, positive manner, but not negatively. So there's a lot of pieces to that, and it takes time.
Thank you. Councilor Dave Burke.
Thank you, Warden Carter. Is the business plan publicly available?
Pardon?
Is the business plan publicly available?
Yeah, it'll be on our website and,
Anyone on the website to see it?
yes.
Will you be, is there a feedback mechanism? From the public or from other municipal groups or?
Yeah, very good question. There's not a built-in feedback. I mean, we're going to be doing measures that I've talked before about, you know, business, retention and digital, but if you're talking about the community itself, the first thing that I think of is how often we are out with, how often we're out meeting with community groups, talking about the business and what we're doing and looking for opinion, right? I don't think I'm answering your question properly, but we don't have a formal survey, as an example, that we're kind of reaching out to the community members and asking them. We're reaching out to businesses, but we're not so much with the community. But whether or not it's immigration or whether or not it's other activities, we're going to be out in the community working with stakeholders groups.
Yeah, like in my community, probably every third household has somebody that's in business. So I bet you don't know half.
No,
You know, and maybe there's an opportunity here to get more feedback if it is promoted widely. Just go on and read it and keep your 2 cents worth kind of thing.
Yep.
But a lot of those people, like I say, they don't even see themselves as business people, a lot of them, but they are. So some type of sideline or enterprise, and of course, a lot of employees of bigger businesses, they're in on that.
so really good suggestion, and I'm sure my congressperson who was here, she'd be able when we see we're going to do that, because I mean, we're going to be putting our plan up, and we will have a way for people to comment.
Yeah, it's also a way to get better known. So, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Warden Murray.
Yes, Warden. The business plan is drawn up with Scott and the board, and it's approved by the board. The board has approved the business plan for this business plan that's before us. The LOC looks at it, it won't say to change or anything, but the LOC for last meeting have endorsed the business plan. To do it going forward.
Okay, thank you.
And just to remind everybody too, that when the plan was set up, one of the keys was lack of political interference. That, you know, we wouldn't be, as a council or any of the other 5 municipal councils, wouldn't be interfering with the decisions of the RAN. They're a separate body. They're funded by the municipalities who agreed together to fund them. But we didn't want to get into squabbles between municipalities as to what have I got lately in my area. And the one thing that was agreed before we ever set the RIN up, right from day one, when the municipal economic working group was together, was that one for all and all for one. That if a new business sets up in Westville or in Eureka or in Pictou or wherever, that's good for the whole county. It wasn't a competition between municipalities as to what we know. Looks like they're getting more out of this than we are. And that brings me to where we're at now, at the end of year 4. If anybody wanted to withdraw, any one of the municipal units wanted to withdraw before, at the end of the 5 years, they had to give notice by the beginning of year 5, which is the end of this month. And from talking to our deputy warden, who's the representative on the LOC, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Nobody's going to withdraw, and I haven't heard any voices around this table thinking that we should withdraw. But there was for a while maybe some hints that something might happen, but that's been looked after. Those municipalities are quite happy now from what we understand. So that's very important that we now have another 5 years in front of us of working together. So these first 5 have been kind of rough because the first 2 were, as Scott showed, kind of trying to get the thing together. The next 2 were under COVID. So we're looking forward to, this year coming, Scott's first full year with the RIN, and then 5 years after that. So we have a long term now. We're not living day to day. We know that we've got the long term to go, and Pictou County has a history sometimes of they have groups that come together to do things of somebody pulling up. That's happened a lot in the past. So the fact that hasn't happened here, and it always was a feeling that we're all going to be in this together. And I think, Scott, you mentioned that the provincial funding, they want to give funding to areas that are working together. They're not interested in giving funding to, a little piece of Pictou County here or there. So I think the future looks pretty bright. I think what Scott presented to us tonight, appears to be a good plan forward. So we'll look forward to it. And if there's no more questions, and we have to get on with the rest of our meeting. So thank you, Scott, for making the presentation on the business plan tonight. I look forward to working with Brandon for next year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get on with the rest of the agenda. The next thing is the reading of Lyme disease awareness month proclamation. So I'll read that now. This is for the month of May, coming up soon. Whereas Lyme disease is a serious illness caused by the bite of a black-legged tick infected with the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi, and whereas black-legged ticks carrying a variety of diseases or illnesses can now be found in all parts of Nova Scotia. And whereas awareness, education, and practicing preventative measures such as daily tick checks and proper tick removal can help reduce your chances of contracting tick-borne diseases. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Warden Robert Parker, on the behalf of the municipality of the county of Pictou, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Lyme Disease Awareness Month, dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, this 7th day of March 2022. This is the sign of the village board. Okay, so keep that in mind because the good weather is coming soon, and if anybody knows anybody, one lady writes in the advocate all the time that has gotten this long-term Lyme disease. I know a friend of mine in Ontario that has an assist. They just go through a terrible ordeal anyway. So if you can save one citizen from having to go through that, and mostly they said they're a matter of education and preventative measures. So that's our proclamation for tonight. And now we're going to move on to our resolutions. First, we go with the municipal grants. Councilor Dewar.
Thank you. Resolution. Be it resolved by the municipal council for the municipality of county of Pictou, the council approves the payment of the following municipal grants: Declaration, Councilor Lawton, Little Harbor Pickleball Committee, $150 operating expenses. Scottsburg Recreation, $150 operating expenses. Hillsborough 4-H, $150 program expenses. Fusion Center Community Club, $150 operating expenses. Glencoe Hall Community Association, $150 operating expenses, for a total of $750. Recreation Capital, Pictou County Forest School, $1,000. Boardwalk construction. Recreation extensions to January 31st, 23. Hillside Community Society, $12,500, second installment of hall expansion. Pictou County Snow Riders, $12,500, first installment. Rio Canadian Recreation, $12,500, first installment, roof and deck. Pictou County Trail Association, $1,000, second installment, unspent balance. River View Home Volunteer Association, $2,920, 37 cents, unspent balance recreation program. Council grants, extensions to January 31st, 23. SPCA, $5,000, construction of new facility. Municipal service grants extension to January 31st, 23. District 1, Kent District Community Center, $659.97 operating expenses. Dated effective in this the 7th day of March 2022, signed by myself, Councilor Chester Gordon, seconded by Councilor Andy Thompson.
So seconded?
Okay, you heard the reading of the resolution to do with their grants, many of them being extended. And we have a mover and a seconder for that resolution. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, and we're going to move on to Service Nova Scotia MOU, Councilor Dave Park.
Thank you, Lord Carter. Resolution, be resolved by the Municipal Council for the Municipality of the County of Pictou. Council authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to enter into an agreement on behalf of the municipality with the Alcohol, Gaming, Fuel, and Tobacco Division of Service Nova Scotia. The purpose of facilitating improved customer access to zoning information as part of the liquor license application process. Dated at Pictou NS, this is the 7th day of March, 2022. Moved by myself, Councilor David Parker, seconded by Councilor Mary Woolridge Elliott.
Councilor Parker, any questions on the resolution? Questions, anyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item C, tax write-offs, Councilor Gordon.
Be resolved by the Municipal Council of the Municipality of the County of Pictou, Council approves the following write-off on taxes, the same having been reviewed and approved by the Financial Services Committee. Enacted the council no longer assessed. It's totaling $158,806.93. Accounts now assessed as exempt provincial properties totals $203.89, and commercial municipal property $102.23. So the grand totals $159,113.05. Dated Pictou, which is 7th day of March 2023, signed by myself, President of the Lyme, and seconded by Councilor Zelpano.
So. Thank you, Councilor Wood. Any questions on the resolution? Councilor Wood.
Yeah, I won't be back in this resolution. It's, to me, I think it's a lot of money that the county is writing off here that everybody else has to pay their taxes, and I think there's ways around, it's a computer age. I mean, this stuff could be listed there and it's sit there forever, so be it, but at least if they go to come in again, we can get them and get our money or whatever. So I really can't that writing off this kind of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Boyle. There is some number of them for class. Councilor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, just to Councilor Warren's comments, Karen did send a good breakdown of what's being done with these areas. I just want to say that I am really pleased with this step we are taking to clean up our unpaid taxes. I think this shows our audit committee is working. As councillors, we have an opportunity every month to oversee our tax payable. But as councillors, we have very little, if any, information concerning unpaid taxes, which is a huge portion of our county revenue. We need a policy that is available for our residents to understand the rules and procedures for how we collect taxes, and what procedures we follow in the event taxes are not paid. This is what our audit committee is attempting to do. I look forward to what our next steps will be here at council as far as unpaid taxes are concerned, and I hope we can work to prevent those types of write-offs, such as what's happening tonight, from happening again or being on our scale.
Councilor Dave Parker.
Thank you, everyone. I will be supporting the motion. I don't like to see somebody avoiding their tax. But these are, put this in perspective, we collect, what, $15 million a year in taxes? This is less than around 1% of that. And it's not from a single year, it's over many years. So it's a very, very small percentage of the taxpayers, most of us pay our taxes. In your look for a couple, I got a couple of White Hill I can suggest it, but I don't think that's going to fly. There's 2 points here. The one that Council Watt just made is we are supporting the audit committee. The audit committee is working to try to make our tax collection process more understandable and communicate better to our taxpayers. But also there becomes a question of when you're wasting taxpayer resources by having them chase small accounts that are years past due, and the mobile home or whatever it is that's taxed is long. It becomes a matter of efficiency at some point. We send Karen or other of our financial staff on these wild goose chases to say, let's just get rid of those ones that are obviously a dead horse and move on to the ones where we can have something better. That's why I support the motion. Thank you.
Any further questions on the motion?
You said there was, Aaron was going to, or Karen was going to get, funds to collection, or going to get a list of those ones too, or didn't get them?
20 properties that she didn't list the name.
Okay, that's 20.
So she could list the everybody fast.
No, well, I just was trying to find it to brought that. Thank you.
Any further questions? Everyone in favor of that resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, we have District 1, road name changes. Councilor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Be resolved by the Municipal Council for the Municipality of the County of Pictou. The council approves the following road name changes, which are necessitated by the twinning of Highway 104 and the opening of a new interchange at Armies River, and recommended by the Nova Scotia Public Works. Road number 1 in Kensington, the length is 1.072 kilometers. And the description is that it is from the junction of trunk 4 to the end of the cul-de-sac. That road is to be named the Middle Brook Road. The second road is also in Kensington, and the length is 1.047 kilometers. And it is from the cul-de-sac to the junction of trunk number 4, formerly 104. This road is to be called Old Orchard Road. Dated here in Pictou on the 7th day of March 2022. I so moved and seconded by Deputy Warden Wayneberg.
Okay, you heard the reading of the resolution. It has to do with those two names for roads down the eastern end of our county. Moved and seconded. Are there any questions on those names? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Carried. Now, I believe engineer or public works engineer Logan McDowell is with us tonight virtually. We have a vehicle tender award recommendations. You want to go ahead to Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We posted an RFP for vehicle tenders on February 17th with a closing date of March 4th. We issued these tender packages to the 10 local new car dealerships of the different brands within Pictou County. I contacted each of them and received the correct contact information. We had also sent them out to the Nova Scotia Public Tenders website. The tenders closed on Friday, just this past Friday at 4 o'clock. We received one tender package in response, which was from Highland Nissan. So my recommendation, which was circulated to council for your information earlier today, is to purchase two 2022 Nissan Frontier S's and two 2022 Nissan Qashqai S's. So I wonder if anybody has any questions about the process, or if there's support to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. I just wanted to ask one thing before we open this up. The Climate Change Committee had recommended before that whenever, I think it went through here under the emergency plan, that whenever we're advertising for vehicles now on, that we would look at, not necessarily take them, but look at prices and whatnot, availability on electric vehicles. Was that considered?
Yes, thank you for the question. It was considered. We did put out a request in the RFP specifically asking for alternatives, which included electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. I was disappointed that we didn't receive any. However, I think the silver lining is that we have moved towards something that we had discussed, which is the purchase of some smaller vehicles, namely the 2022 Qashqais for those staff that do not require larger trucks. And we will continue to look at electric vehicle and hybrid options in the future as well. But we had put it out here. Disappointed that we didn't get any responses. Some had indicated that they would respond with them, but we'll look forward to those in future tenders.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Dave Carter first and Councilor McGee.
The world really has changed. We get one offer. We solicited all of the local dealerships. I am pleased that we're buying somewhat smaller vehicles. Most of us have had the fortunate experience of visiting the fuel pumps lately. That's going to have an impact on budgets everywhere. Having newer, more fuel efficient, smaller vehicles will help a bit. Moving in the right direction. There's not enough momentum yet for electric vehicles. We have the problem of where to charge them, getting them charged, where to service them, and just quite simply availability. And right now, pricing. Pricing is higher, but you're not buying gasoline, but still, we're not there yet, but we are committed to moving it. So this is a small step in the right direction, and I support the recommendation. I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation if you need that.
I will need a motion here, please, if you want to make one.
I will so move.
Seconded, moved and seconded that we, Councilor Thompson, moved and seconded that we purchase the vehicles as recommended by Mr. McDowell. Now we will go to Councilor McGee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. My question through you to Mr. McDowell would be, can you explain a little bit about the use of the SUV, because that's kind of new to our operations, and what kind of role they will play, or where you see the replacement of larger vehicles for use by them? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We had, I reviewed this with my staff and with our operational requirements. The two smaller vehicles, the cash guys, are intended for use by our two building officials. The consideration there was that they don't really require any transportation of heavy items or larger items and things like that. That they could accomplish their work as long as they're in an all-wheel drive vehicle to access sites that are off main roads and things like that. So that was the intention there. We're looking at those staff largely outside of our strictly public works or by law enforcement groups that really don't need the larger vehicles.
Okay. Any further questions on the resolution or on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll have the vote on the tender award then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 9 is Ukrainian relief. Councilor Wood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, I'm telling you here what's going on, the wars that we're seeing coming up in Ukraine. Can't imagine having to live under those conditions. I don't get anything. Think back to how we reacted in 9/11 and the horrors of terrorist acts over here in North America and how much they affected us. It just makes your blood cold to see what's happening over with Ukraine and Russia. We look at the map and we don't know where Putin is going to stop. This could be the first step. We have to try and stop him before it is escalated into another world war, because I don't think anyone wants to see that. And we're hoping sanctions will work. When you look at the map, Canada is very close to Russia, so when he's through conquering whoever he wants to conquer over there, could he be next? And I think it's a fight for our democracy, and it is a real concern when we see what's happening. Again, I agree sanctions have to be made, do everything we can to prevent another world war, but sometimes it's totally out of our hands. But one of the ways we can help is by funding or sending funds to the Ukraine, through the Red Cross, and to help with the fight. And I would really like to see this council step up and make a donation to the Ukraine relief, and knowing that the donation to the Red Cross doubles your money, so if we were to give a $25,000 donation, in reality, 50,000 would go to Ukraine. So I would like to make a motion that this council seriously consider sending $25,000 and maybe to the Ukraine. That's for second.
Councilor Butler, are you seconding it?
Yes.
Do you want to speak on it or? Yeah, go ahead then.
I'm seconding it, and as well, I'd like to support the motion. Some of you may have heard on the news that Geisler County has done this and has sent out a challenge to all of the municipal units in the province. And I'm pleased that this is being brought forward this evening to show our support. We certainly will support the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I'm in support of this as well. I had a couple of calls. I called yesterday, gentleman, and he was looking for some direction, just like what we're doing here, but he wanted to have something in the east, a drop-off place for checks or donations, and something in the west that they could do the same, and they could send them out to the Red Cross as well. So I said I'd bring it up tonight. That's what I'm saying. And Councillor Warden already did this, but I think that there's a lot of people out there that want to help too. So I don't know if we could make our office, if they would collect here and maybe find another place. I don't know how that works. If they would want people coming in off the street leaving donations to give to the Red Cross, but it's just something I wanted to add to this important resolution. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Wells.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Council Warden Duran brought this up tonight to send this kind of money out to. And she had so much problem with the trying to help the people of BC. Yet for 10,000. And the big thing I'm worried about is that, yeah, we could turn around and send 25,000 over or whatever. and to the Red Cross and trying to help these people, but are we saying, and is this money gonna end up with these people? Russia can take that place like that tomorrow. I mean, they got the manpower, they got to do it. We got a bunch of, I don't know, I'm so ashamed of our governments. You know, and the peaceful governments around the world that are sitting back and watching this happen. Little kids and old people and people like that being massacred for nothing. I mean, you know, I think that, you know, our government or the governments that can, the major powers could be telling Putin either get out of there or Kremlin will be gone in 5 minutes, you know what I mean, or an hour or whatever, and put the pressure back and end this darn thing, stop the torture. But I'm afraid that we're going to be throwing money like a lot of people are everywhere you go today. There's gather money, but I think it's all going to end up in the Russian hands. The exact same with sending you know, our guns or whatever over there. The Russians can take that in a matter of seconds. So this is crazy for anybody to think that the Russians can't. And that's the only thing that worries me. I really feel sorry for these people, and I wish there was all what we could do for them. But I think that, and another thing that really bothers me is we got people here in the homeless shelters here in our own town, their own county that we turn around and people haven't got places to stay. People can't get the partners. People can't get, they're living on the street. Now with the price of everything going up, it's going to be a lot more of them. And I hope we're ready to turn around and put some money towards that because we darn well better be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Dave Carter, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Go ahead then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've seen this coming for months, maybe even years and even decades. Okay. What we are engaged in is the ongoing struggle between freedom, democracy, whatever you want to call it, and autocracy. Okay. If the only way that you can convince someone else to accept your point of view is at the end of a gun, you have lost the argument. They that Russia crossed the border into Ukraine, they admitted that they have lost and are losing the argument. Okay. I appreciate Councilor Boyle's concern for local, but there is a time to stand up and help those who are most desperate. And those that can settle some money, it's a drop in the bucket. To helping millions of Ukrainians who are in a very, very, very difficult circumstance. Poland has already accepted more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees, mostly women and children. As men between the ages of 18 and 60 are not permitted to leave Ukraine. They're in a desperate situation. Okay? And sooner or later, maybe with great costs, we will need to stand against the autocrats of Russia. I am not convinced that the Russian people, that the majority of them, support this action. And maybe our best hope is that there will be a regime change. Unfortunately, the Russians tend to pick strong men, go right back to the same cycle. But sooner or later, we have to stand up and count. Okay, and that may involve a whole lot more sacrifice than a few $1,000s. This is a very difficult circumstance. If it becomes a all-out nuclear war, I suppose it's right. Wipe up the Kremlin in 5 minutes. They'd be busy wiping out our cities at the same time. And all losers. Society, the one say that we know we can't. Don't want to go there. Same time, we have to stand up and say, the Ukrainian people have the right to self-determination. It should not be dictated by the Americans, Canadians, other Europeans, or the Soviets, Russians, what you want to call them. Okay? Every nation has the right to self-determination. But it's obliterated in many, many places. So we either begin to step in our resolve and stand up. Tonight is but a small token, and I certainly support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and Councilor McGill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I think that, it's very important for us to show our support to the Ukrainian people. I was wondering how much the Guysborough, County Guysborough agreed, and actually what was their, they gave 25 as well. Yeah, and that fits in line with their budget, does it, through you, Mr. Warden, Officer CEO? Do we have are we able to do that within our budget?
We will have to find the 25,000. Our contingency was 25,000 and we spent 10 of it with the floods in BC. So if council passes the motion, we'll find it somewhere.
So we only have 15,000 left in our contingency fund.
And it could be less than that because we given grants out over the course of the year. We're in the last month of our fiscal year. If the wishes of council are to do this, we will find you your 25,000 some.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments or questions? I do want to bring up, because I received a call late this afternoon, the time I got back to the lady, and it's connected, I think, to the gentleman that Councilor Brewer was talking to. And I guess the question would be, a lot of people in this county who have expressed to me want to help in some way, but they don't know how to do it. And we're doing it here tonight on behalf of the taxpayers, on behalf of everybody in terms of dollars. But the request was similar to what Councilor Brewer said. Is there a way to organize that people could drop off donations to a central point on each side of our county that could then be delivered? And this is happening. I just read in Halifax, for example, with his own truck. They picked up a full load of emergency supplies and child care supplies, whatnot. He drove them to Toronto and with his truck, and they got on a boat. Somebody agreed to deliver them free or whatever, or airplane, whatever it was. Is that something we want to consider or not, or are we fine with just doing the cash or the financial donation? I told her I'd bring it up tonight, so I wanted to give people, it's mostly about people having an opportunity themselves to do something. There's a lot of people feeling like they want to help and don't know how to do it. Councilor Boyles.
Yeah, as far as drop-off zones go, I was into Staples today, and they got a nice display set up with donations, and you get a ribbon with the colors of the crane or thing around your neck or whatever. But they got it right there. You can donate all you want.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, and when she called me, she wanted to know if there was any way, as a county, could help coordinate that. Go ahead, Councilor Gill.
Could we not put some links on our website? So if somebody wants to donate, we could put maybe 3 different places. I know you see a lot on like social media and stuff that people are renting out. They're going over and they're booking Airbnbs. So when they're checking to make sure they're through a person instead of a company, and they're renting those out. And a lot of those places are actually housing refugees or people that have no place to go. So I know that's a really cool idea that's happening around, but maybe for us, it might be an idea to just link some, like the Red Cross and certain different maybe 3 organizations that people could choose from, and have a place for them there.
Wanted to bring it up when she asked me to here tonight. Go ahead, Jeff.
Just kind of point of order, should you present or promotion?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. And then if there's any interest in doing something else, we can have with that after. You're right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. I think I'm going to wait for Councilor Wills back in. Do you have a comment, Councilor Wills?
Just on, I support the motion. I believe, I don't think that too much of a stretch. This is just the start. I think that there's going to be long-term, over the next 2 or 3 years, resettlement is going to be a big issue. Our local MP is the immigration minister, and I'm sure he wants that put our thinking caps on as to how we're going to respond in the near term and moving forward. So I think it's something we have to focus on when the budget comes around as to how we help pass this initial invasion and displacement of people. So 5 million people being displaced, leaving their homeland, they have to go somewhere. And they probably want to go back home, but their home's going to be, it could be here, it could be in any other part of the world. But I think we need to think long term as to how we want to respond and stuff. And so.
Okay, now everybody in the house will call for the vote then on, you want to, who has the motion? I'll get them to read the motion first, Councilor Boyle. Who has the motion? Do you have it, Jane?
I have here, it was moved by Councilor Ward and seconded by Councilor Butler, that the municipality send $25,000 to the Canadian Red Cross in support of the Ukrainian relief fund.
Okay, is that accurate to the mover and seconder? Okay, and Councilor Boyle, I think if you want to.
Yeah, I just wonder was, I'm going to be pointing from this vote altogether. I'll vote again.
Okay. All right, pardon? You're not allowed to do that, being told.
Correct, unless there's a conflict. It has to be a negative vote.
No. No, I'm sitting in the Air Force, so turn around and carry the gun and turn around and fight for this country. And I think we got a right to what we want. Well, so be.
But if you don't vote, it's a nay vote. Yeah, okay, that's what it's about. Okay,
How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? Like, I mean, it's an A vote if you don't vote because, okay, everybody can vote here. I couldn't say nothing, not a word, so I'm not voting either way. How do you know that they do vote?
well, I think
Interpreted as a nay vote.
in the rule.
It's interpreted as a nay vote.
Yeah, it's interpreted, it's in the rules of order that's interpreting the nay
But
vote.
how do you know if a person voted or not? That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna go for the vote anyway. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, anybody against, please say nay. Okay, motion carried. Move on to the community announcement. Any community announcements today? Oh, sorry, Councilor Webb.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder to everyone that we're having our meeting on Thursday night at the Wellness Center from 6 to 7, and Juanita Spencer from the ASFM will be leading the presentation, and I hope put it with Councilor Stanton. Thank you.
Okay, good reminder that it's 6.
Is it 1 hour? Is that what I heard?
1 hour.
No, I have another meeting at 7, but I'll try to make most of it.
Okay, so ahead, Councilor.
6 to 7.
So I understand that we're going to send some sort of a message to Suzanne. Something on the computer about.
But Councilor McHale, yeah, we were gonna come back to that, sorry.
Could find out if there was a couple of places like Councilor Boyles mentioned that Staples has a place and but anyway, if there's something else, somebody else could find out. And if it gets on our website, I'm sure it's going to look after the people that called me and like the warden as well, because they're interested in a drop off. Thank you.
There is a want for that. Go ahead, Councilor Hill.
Are we still on community announcements?
We sort of went backwards to something. I guess it's a community announcement, but we had said don't we pass the motion, we can go back to that. But if our CAO can look after that with Suzanne, because there is a want in this county, I think, to have a place where people can drop off, and they'll find some way to get it there. The Red Cross or somebody will look after the logistics of it. Councilor Pepper.
Yes, Mr. Warden, I'd like just to add that if we are going to enlist our communications officer to list places to drop off, perhaps she could also include the fact that we have made a commitment of 25,000, because this would signal to the community that you're very much in favor of supporting, and that we're providing some leadership on a very important issue.
I agree, and then again, we're also making access so that people can give on their own in addition, but in various ways. We'll rely on our PAO to communicate that to our communications officer. Okay, okay. Go ahead, Councilor. I didn't see your hand.
No, I had a community announcement. Are we back to community
Yeah,
announcement yet?
we're back now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I just wanted to kind of put the bug in everybody's ear, because we are in March now and it takes time to organize stuff, that the community cleanups are something that we should be looking forward to in the month of April 23rd. And the week prior to that, they're kind of the cleanup weeks for, what is it, go green, get clean. So I just want to put that out there because our community is, we have, I guess, one of our amazing volunteers, Diane Ross, she has been nominated for the representative of Pictou County from the Scotian Shores, a provincial shoreline cleanup group. And they're going to be concentrating on beaches this year in Pictou County, which is Waterside, Caribou, and the Montgomery area. And the date for these cleanups is May the 8th and the week prior to the state. So I would like to wish her congratulations, but also kind of, you know, we say how much we love to live here. So let's show that by keeping our roadsides clean. And, you know, I guess we're challenging everybody to get out there, all the districts, and have their cleanups and get organized and ready to go. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. That is on our Saturday meeting that we get together on April, whatever the date is, so that is on the agenda.
Thank you.
I would add that we're hoping by that time to have some information back from the Nova Scotia, who's been leading a study on littering in the province of Nova Scotia, because it's a great interest right across this province and every municipality. And just looking at common ways we can help fight this out. I think it'll be a major announcement soon on some of the research that is going. Okay, any other community announcements then? Just before we leave that, you all received an email today, but we're getting very, very close. We're getting very close to having our first customers on our county internet system. And so there's going to be roughly this 200 or in excess of 200 homes in Lyme. And that will be fine, and that will be wireless. But the wireless will be going this year by the end of the month. So it'll be great to see some people actually on our system, because that'll give us a test for how it's going to work. And our internet service providers, which are actually the sellers, not us, it'll give a chance for them to put out their offerings. And so I think it's very positive news that this county can work on this for so long. To know that it's finally going to be starting up, and we'll soon be hiring somebody here to operate the system. So things are moving in the positive direction, maybe not as fast as we'd like, but they are moving for this country.
You get an email on it, or just on our website? On our website.
No, I got an email because the gentleman at the radio station was asked a question. That's why I'm reading it in the email. And he included that. You're right, it's on our website. Okay, if there are no more community announcements, we'll move to emergency resolutions. Any emergency resolutions requiring unanimous consent? Hearing none, referrals to committees and council. Does anybody have anything they want to be brought up at the next? Go ahead, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Is it possible to add to the planning session meeting? Or does that have to be outside of this meeting?
That should be outside of this meeting, but you certainly bring it up with either myself or the deputy. And,
Okay.
we'll be consulting on it over the next 2 or 3 weeks with others. But
What's the cutoff date to have something added to the agenda for the planning session?
well, probably a week before.
A week ago? Okay.
Okay, is there any referrals for that? Go ahead, Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I heard that it was your birthday this past week. So it's a milestone birthday.
Nobody told me.
Nobody told you, so happy 70th birthday, Mr.
Thank
Warden.
you. Still, I got my 3 score.
I'm getting here, how old?
Yes,
Do you want me to say it for the woman about happy 70th birthday?
thank you, Councilor Keel.
Awesome. I hope you had a great day.
Excellent. Okay, so we're open to a motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Bruce, Deputy Warden, seconded by Mary, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, everyone with that.